Hello, welcome to Urban X-Files. My name is Keith, and today I am continuing the series of our haunted roads. And today's haunted road is the ghost of Bluebell Hill. And Bluebell Hill is one of the most famous ghost stories to come out of Kent, and it has been reported in numbers of national newspapers over the years, with many of the ghost experiences are being repeatedly reported, and unsuspecting motorists have actually witnessed a woman run out right in front of their cars, even late at night, and often capturing eyesight with the driver. And then, just as they are about to hit the car, and the driver is in panic and slams on his brakes and screeches to a halt, thinking that he's done the unthinkable and killed an innocent person. Now, there is no evidence of a collision has ever been found, and nor has there ever been a victim found in this crazy ghost haunting. The car is untouched, there's no blood, there's no dents, there's the thud, and then nothing. Now, it is believed to be the ghost of a lady who had passed away in a tragic car accident sometime in the 60s, and it's near the bridge before Old Chatham Road. There are two cars that were involved in this particular collision, and sadly 3 out of the 4 women in one of the cars had tragically passed away. One of the women is said to have been a bride-to-be who was due to be married that week, and it is thought that she is the ghost of Bluebell Hill, as well as reports of the ghost that jumps in front of cars. There have also been multiple reported experiences of a female hitchhiker on Bluebell Hill. Motorists have kindly pulled over to pick up this lady on the road, only for her to disappear right before their eyes in the back seat. There is also a report of a man in the late 60s, and he was involved in an accident. And 4 years after the accident, a man on his way home in Rochester late that night saw 2 pedestrians that were walking towards him, and then suddenly, as they approached, they disappeared into thin air. On another occasion, he witnessed the pedestrians once again walking across the road. However, this time a car unsuspectingly drove right through them. There is also the ghost of Maurice Goodenough, which is not really a funny name considering what's happened. And in the early hours of the 13th of July in the 70s, some year in the 70s, Maurice Goodenough was a bricklayer from Rochester who was driving through Bluebell Hill when a young girl had jumped out right in front of his car. The girl had just stepped out in front of me from the edge of the road, is how he described it. My car hit it, and it hit it with a hell of a bang. As I was driving, she stepped out and it went boom, and I felt the impact in the car, and I screeched to a halt and was sat there for seconds in shock when I jumped out of the car to see to the girl who had been found lying in the road with a cut to her forehead and grazes on her legs. He covered her with a blanket and tried to wave down other motorists, but no one seemed to stop. He thought it would be unwise to try and move her into his car to take her to the nearest hospital, so he rushed off to the police station to report what had happened. And they returned to the scene to find nothing but the blanket the gentleman had left behind. A search was called in the area, and sadly to no success. The search resumed at dawn with dogs and volunteers who desperately tried to find this poor girl who, for all they knew, had been dazed and panicked and tried to make her way to safety somehow. Maybe she fell and tripped, but no. Then there was also a check at multiple hospitals from around the area, with no joy. There was also a newspaper article and an appeal for the missing girl. These were all carried out, yet nobody stepped forward. The gentleman was interviewed by the News of the World, and that Saturday evening he was still shaking, and he was adamant that he had in fact hit this girl. He insisted that he wasn't going crazy. He said he hit her and he felt her, but he can't understand where she went. And to this day, he is still terrified by what's happened in that awful, awful accident. The press jumped to the assumption that the girl must have been a ghost, as their research about the incident in the 60s, as well as the legend of the hitchhiking ghost, resulted in the conclusion that the girl had to have been a paranormal, supernatural, ghostly entity, or whatever you would like to call it. The fact that it was a girl, her disappearance in the vicinity of Bluebell Hill, and the many reports of the 1960s crash and her vanishing after the incident. There has also been a ghost girl seen, and this was a headline from the early 90s. It was late one Sunday evening in November, when a gentleman who was a 54-year-old coach driver on his way to Maidstone in Kent, when a young woman appeared directly in front of his vehicle near the Aylesford southbound turn-off of the A229 at Bluebell Hill. The woman strangely stared right through this gentleman till they made contact with their eyes. Their eyes met, and before he hit her, with the body going underneath the car, he was mortified, slammed on his brakes, and he jumped out to attend to this poor victim. And he honestly thought he'd killed her, he said. You cannot imagine how it felt. I was so scared to look underneath the car, but I now knelt down and took a deep breath and looked straight through. There was nothing there. He then stood up and looked around his car, and he looked around all meters around the area of the car, and he found no one. So he was that sure that he hit the woman. He went straight to the police station in Rochester to tell them about this incident. And the police took it seriously because the gentleman was so shook up. They sat him down in one of the questioning rooms, the interrogation rooms, and they asked him to explain everything that had happened. And he said that if you check your car, you will find no dents, blood spatters, or anything that would indicate you'd had an accident. Because if you hit a person traveling past 30 mile an hour, 40 mile an hour, 50, so on, you would seriously cause some damage to the car, and the victim is not likely to be able to get up to run away. So, sir, it looks like you have been the victim of our local Bluebell Hill ghost. The gentleman was still in shock, so he asked the sergeant to repeat everything he just said. He said, sir, you've not been involved in a car accident as such. What you witnessed is a reoccurring phantom of this ghost from the 60s. Nevertheless, the police did return to the scene with him, and just to make sure everything is okay, because they couldn't just rely on it being a haunting. And the gentleman has described it as being the most terrifying incident he has ever come across. Also, later on that month and further months throughout the year, there had been 2 motorists reported hitting a woman wearing a red scarf near the Robin Hood Lane junction at Bluebell Hill. They searched and informed the police. Yet again, this was found to be nobody there. No body, no dents, no blood, nothing. It's good that these responsible drivers had reported the incident to the police, as I'm sure most of us would. But in a situation where you are in shock, it wouldn't be surprising that you would see if this girl was there and then leave the scene of the accident for fear you were going stir crazy. Now, during between 1964 and the 1975, there was a member of the Kent Ambulance Service based in Medway, and one Christmas Eve evening, while driving back from Maidstone Hospital in the ambulance after taking a patient there, they were travelling up Bluebell Hill when suddenly his partner had noticed a person in what appeared to be a wedding dress. She'd stepped out into the road and stopped. As the driver of the ambulance slowed down, his colleague leant out of the ambulance window and asked her what she was doing out at this time of night. All she wanted was a lift. So my friend jumped out of the ambulance and opened the rear ambulance doors, and she got in. Now, this isn't a normal practice that these ambulance guys would do. They're not there to give lifts to the public. But given it was so late and it was very cold and a not so great night, they kindly opened the rear of the doors to let her get some warm and take her to a safe destination. Now, when they drove into Rochester, they turned around to say that they were going to be shortly stopping to let the girl out, and there was no reply. So he jumped up from his seat, checked through the window, and there was nobody there. He had to stop the car. A pair of them got out and checked in the back of the ambulance. The ghost of the lady in the wedding dress was not there. There are many more strange tales of Bluebell Hill. If you know of any of these, please do get in touch in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, feel free to hit that like button. If you didn't, press the dislike button. Either way, the engagement's most important. Take care, people, and see you all in the next video.